The moral argument for God's existence says that if God does not exist, then objective moral laws do not exist. Objective moral laws do exist, therefore God exists. However, not everyone finds this argument convincing, so today we're going to look at 3 objections to this argument. The first objection claims that morality is relative, meaning that there's no objective morality that all people everywhere should obey, because morality is determined by someone's culture. This objection is raised at premise 2 of the moral argument. An example of this would be if someone thought that it was acceptable for India to have the old caste system, but did not believe that was okay to have in the United States. This belief is basically saying that since there's no objective standard of morality, people in the United States shouldn't judge people who used to live in India under the caste system because there's no objective goodness to the United States not having a caste system, or objective wrongness to India having a caste system. However, most people aren't truly moral relativists when it comes to different cultures, and this becomes more obvious when we look at the culture of Germany during World War II. The leaders who were in power in that culture did not believe that Jews were humans, so they went on to kill millions of Jews. If morality is not objective, then what the Nazis did during World War II isn't objectively morally wrong, just something that our culture currently does not agree with. However, we all know that what the Nazis did was objectively wrong for any people at any time, anywhere. This is partially why we were able to charge the Nazis with crimes against humanity, because we knew that what they were doing was objectively wrong, even if it was normal in their culture. C.S. Lewis, in his book Mere Christianity, points out that people do not really live as if there's no such thing as objective morality, and he even points out that across cultures there are certain moral truths that all people everywhere seem to agree with, even if their ways of living out those truths differ. He writes, "Men have differed in regards to what people you ought to be unselfish to, whether it was only your own family or your fellow countrymen or everyone. But they have always agreed that you ought not put yourself first. Selfishness has never been admired. Men have differed as to whether you should have 1 wife or 4, but they have always agreed that you must not simply have any woman you liked." The second objection that we're going to look at is also aimed at the second premise of this argument and claims that objective morality can be accounted for through natural selection and evolution. This objection claims that we have evolved to have this sense of morality as a way to help our species survive, not as an objective standard that must be grounded in God's nature. However, this objection assumes that we should value the survival of our species without giving an objective reason why we should value the survival of our species. In fact, on a naturalistic worldview, this preference for our own species over other species is called speciesism. Also, on this view, if survival of the fittest is the end goal, then would it be objectively morally right to kill off part of our population if it enables the other part of our population to survive better and be able to reproduce more? We all seem to agree that it is objectively wrong to kill off weaker members of our population, even if it helps stronger members of our population survive. But why would that be objectively morally wrong if evolution created morality in the first place and only cares about the survival of our species overall and not individuals? So it seems that evolution cannot explain why it's morally good for our species to survive in the first place, and the idea of survival of the fittest doesn't line up with what we know to be immoral in certain situations. So evolution is not sufficient to ground objective morality. The third objection that we're going to look at to the moral argument is called the euthyphro dilemma, and asks if something is good because God wills it, or does God will something because it is good? This is a dilemma because it seems like either way you're making a wrong decision. If you say that something is good because God wills it to be good, then it seems like goodness is an arbitrary standard that God is making up on a whim. However, if you say that God commands something because it is good, then you're appealing to an outside standard of goodness that is beyond God, which arguably itself would be God and seems to be more powerful than God. This is a false dilemma because there's actually a third option that's not mentioned, and that is that God wills something because he is good. Goodness is an objective standard grounded in God's nature. Therefore, God's commandments are an expression of his good nature, not an arbitrary decision that he made. So if we ask if God could have commanded us to hate each other, for example, instead of loving each other, we're actually asking a logically contradictory question. Kind of like the question, if there was a square circle, what would its area be? There's no correct answer to this question because the question itself doesn't make any sense and is logically contradictory. So neither relativism, evolution, or the euthyphro dilemma are good objections to the moral argument for God's existence. Please like and subscribe for more videos that share God's love through apologetics, and remember, Jesus loves you.